Do the kids still use the term wet? I know that it was like a basketball term, but still, wet cement. Hey, what's going on, guys? My name's Chris. Welcome back to the official WearTesters.com YouTube channel. Today we got a detailed look and breakdown on the Air Jordan 4 SE, known as the Wet Cement, previously dubbed the Paris. But instead, Nike, as far as the sneakers app is concerned, has flipped the script and has decided that these guys right here were inspired by the cobblestone throughout Paris and things like that. So still Paris themed, but just not like what we all thought. However, before we get started, we do have a quick word from today's sponsor, and that just so happens to be the good folks over at Yugov. Yugov is an internet-based market research company. They conduct polls on a variety of different topics, ranging from politics to pop culture, and you can learn more by clicking the link down below in our description box. But Yugov is free and easy to join, and it's just a simple and quick way to earn some extra cash. So if you happen to have some downtime at the office, or you're taking public transportation, or perhaps you're waiting for your next flight, then Yugov could be an easy side hustle to earn some extra cash so that you can fund the hobbies and interests within your daily life. I was able to actually grab a brand new pair of basketball shoes, and I got these on clearance too, so not only did I earn some extra cash, but I saved some too.
You win. Perfect.
So make sure that you click the link down below in our description box. It'll send you over to Yugov where you can sign up. Again, it's free and easy. You can start making your cash as soon as possible. And with that being said, the box is really cool. I know that some people don't care about the box, but I do. I think that packaging is part of presentation, and the presentation is part of the product. You know what I mean? Like when you put out something like this, especially for its price, you've got to really wow people, and this does that. The box itself obviously looks like actual cement, not like splatter print cement, but the legitimate cement that you would walk on outside. And not only that, but it's textured. It's f***ing cool. But starting off with the outsole, it's got herringbone from top to bottom. It's in multi-direction fashion as well. This is the first signature Air Jordan model to feature the herringbone traction pattern. The Air Jordan 1, 2, and 3 all didn't use it. Some people are gonna really love this, by the way, because it's like tonal and it's dark. A lot of people dislike, with a passion, white outsoles. I'm not sure why. I know that they say that it's because they look dirty, but like, it's because you can't see it, doesn't mean it's not there. But for those of you guys that like the darker outsoles, this one's for you. And then that dark color moves on up to the polyurethane midsole. That polyurethane midsole does feel very, very hard. Definitely not like the SBs, more, I would say, in line with the military 4s, where they're just kind of bricks. But inside of that polyurethane midsole is an encapsulated 4-foot air sole unit, and then in the rear there's a visible one. On top of all of that, they actually sprung and put Dream Cell on there. That was cool. Now the materials are where the SE part of the shoe comes in. Everything on here is really elevated. Some people might find the materials to be too stiff. I understand, but when they're using better materials, you got to break them in. So with the increased retail price, I think that this is a good move just because it makes you feel like you're at least getting something out of it. It's not like a money grab type of retro where it's like, oh, well, they'll just pay it. This one, they actually did stuff to it. It feels really good. Again, stiff, but you got to break in good materials, man. So the toe rand right here is suede, but they've got that weird wax treatment to it. It does not quite look as distressed, I guess, as like those Topaz 4s, where there was like pieces of suede poking through. It doesn't look quite like that, but it looks like it could look like that eventually. I believe they're trying to mimic that cement look, like that cracked look. You know what I mean? So in that sense, it looks cool. If anything, these look like some SBs. Like if you took this to some grip tape, I think that they would look dope. They'd be up, but they'd look cool. And then the lighter portion of the material is actually like really nice nubug. So this is not a longer hair nubug, even though you can see a little bit of color shifting, but it's very, very faint. If anything, it just feels very smooth to the touch. And I think that it's a great move. I think that it looks good. I think that it feels good. It's a very nice shoe, very well built. Like when you hold this in hand, it does not feel like something like mediocre. It feels like a substantial sneaker.
That's high praise.
Some of the changes that they've done on the past releases, like the Craft SEs, come in the form of where the netting would usually be. So this is like the first Air Jordan to feature ventilation within the shoe. And then with the Craft SE, they removed that, and instead they just kind of depicted it, but with a more premium material. They've done the same thing here. Instead of the suede though, it is the same style nubuck, and then they've heat pressed the netting. Look into it. Some people don't like that. Some people really do like that. So it really just depends. It will vary from pair to pair. Like just looking at the side side panel here looks perfect. Looking at the tongue looks less perfect. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't look like they kind of, I don't know.
They didn't put their weight into it.
Right, like it just doesn't look as pressed, you know what I mean? So it's a little weird. I don't know if they did it on purpose or not, but I'm just saying it's just how they look, man. I did forget to mention that the tongue is also nubuck. It's not vinyl or anything like that, and it is a different color. So we've got 3 different shades of gray within just the materials alone. You got that darker portion, the mid-tone portion, and then the lighter portion right there at the top. They've also removed the flight patch, which is one of my favorite features of the Air Jordan 4, but they didn't remove it completely. In fact, they actually debossed it into the material itself, so now it's semi-permanent. Not that the patch wasn't permanent, the patch is there. It's not gonna go anywhere unless it rips off. That would suck. I will say sometimes this does, like,
I was gonna say, how is it semi-permanent? It'll like
sometimes
fluff
it wears,
out?
yeah, sometimes it wears away. Some people have noted that this stuff, like when they start to get it scuffed or whatever, like it loses the grid pattern or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. The eye stay panels, like these little plastic pieces, as well as the heel tab, they have this treatment to it that is so cool. It's kind of like the box, but not really. It looks so dope, dude. Like this, I'm not trying to like hype these up or anything. Trust me, I'm not. I'm just impressed. I'm impressed at the level of detail. I never thought that we'd get something like this from Jordan Brand, especially in today's era of sneakers. Like everything that they do seems like a quick like flash in the pan, but this one, it just feels like they took a little bit more time. They were like, hey man, let's make this one a little bit more special. The lining is even premium too. We've got a nice soft microfiber lining. I mean, they made these really well, man. And again, I'm not hyping up anything. I'm just stating facts here. The materials from top to bottom are impressive from a Jordan Brand standpoint. From a New Balance standpoint, maybe not so much. But from a Jordan Brand standpoint, yes it is. Now, as far as their fit is concerned, go true to size, or whatever size you typically wear with your Air Jordan 4s. That's what I would recommend. I know that these guys still have that pinky toe killer on there, so wide footers may want to consider going up half a size. Everybody else, whatever you typically wear in your Air Jordan 4s, for myself, it's true to size. They fit perfect. But with all that being said, what do we happen to have for today's question of the day?
If you could live in a time loop for an eternity, what significant moment in your life would you choose to live in or rewind over and over again, and why?
That doesn't even sound fun, even if it's a good moment. That sounds like torture.
No, not if it's like,
You can't move on.
what if you don't remember that you're constantly in it?
You and me trapped in this moment endlessly.
I don't know, it just reminds me of Dormammu.
I've come to bargain.
I wish that it was you had a moment that you can time loop
Yes.
and just go back to it for all eternity or whatever your lifespan is.
Fine. What moment
Like
would you like
where
to
like if you're bummed, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you can be like, oh man, I remember that, but that's what a memory is.
Okay.
So yeah, as far as what it would be, there's a number of little moments. One that is pretty significant though is probably when we purchased this place, just because growing up I never thought that I'd own a house. I thought that I'd be like a renter forever or whatever. That was one of those things where like I would walk out like onto the, like we have an upstairs with like, I don't know what it's called. It's
A
like
landing?
Yeah, a landing, and it just kind of like overlooks the entry. It's not like a fancy house or anything. It's a moderate house. It's just one of those things where I would like look over and be like, oh, that's mine. And then I would like go to our patio door and look out into the backyard and be like, that's mine. I'd pull up in the driveway and be like, that's mine. So yeah, that would probably be like the main moment. Not the day that we bought it, but just like one of those days in the house where like I would have that like reflection where like, because I still have those, like where I walk out and I'd be like, damn, this is mine, you know? So yeah, that would probably be it.
I thought you had a couple.
I said that that was my primary though.
Such a tease.
Sorry. I mean, like each of my kids being born is like a moment, although those do flash in my mind because of like things that happen that like really stick out. Like when you see something like that, like you don't forget that. Like it's just, it's, whoa. There's little things like that. Buying my first car in cash. Just little things, but I don't know if I'd want to like relive those for eternity.
I wouldn't want to relive. Although that was like fun being able to be like, I'm gonna give you this much, make it this dollar amount. That was like my one like, ooh, look what I did moment there.
Right.
I wouldn't want to relive that whole afternoon of being like, let's test drive and let's discuss.
No, that's what I'm saying is like that, like the whole process, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like same thing with like the car that like the first car that we bought, like with no help or anything. Like it was just like,
Oh, that was a long day.
yeah, but like we did that, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like it's just little things where they're already like moments that you like go back on, and especially when you have kids, like they'll ask you questions and then you do got to relive through those because you got to re-explain everything, like what happened, like why you made this decision or whatever. And so yeah, there's things like that. Do you have one, or did you not want to share?
I have two. One of them would be my graduation from high school. which might sound silly, but it's not so much the graduation part, it was the after. My mom put together that party, and it was the first time ever since they had gotten divorced where my real dad came into the house instead of just like dropping us off, and his side of the family came, and it's like the last time I can remember. And obviously not everybody, because like obviously my friends couldn't go because they had their own parties and stuff, but everybody, you were there. All my grandparents that were alive were still there. Like it was just like, wow, you guys are all here for me. Like I hadn't had a moment like that since maybe like 10 years old, 9 years old.
Well, I was gonna say the day you were born, you know what I mean? But yeah.
So, and then the other one would be when no shame to our son or anything, but like when our oldest was born, just because that was like a great experience. We were young, and so I wasn't scared of anything.
That was a great experience?
Yes. I took the drugs as soon as they were offered. Like my mom came, my best friends came. Like it was just kind of like a party waiting for this kid to be born.
Oh, see, we had different experiences that day. You know, because my mind went to that moment first and was just like, oh, the day that our first was born. Because like when you get it, like when they put it in your arms and stuff, you're just like, oh my God.
Well, and that's a thing too where I would differ it, where when our son was born, there's a 7-year age difference between them. And so they had already changed how the birthing process was by then, where all of a sudden they're like, no, you need skin to skin contact. So I got to like have this amazing moment with our son to the point where like my dads were like, can we come see the baby yet? Like, we've been waiting.
For me, that was so nerve-wracking. Like, I even broke my phone that day. Like, I dropped it off of a 2-story balcony trying to put it in my pocket because I'm so, like, frantic and stuff. But not, like, uncontrolled. It was just, I'm just, like, I'm already kind of, like, all over the place. And so, yeah, like, it was just one of those things where a lot happened in, like, 24 hours or whatever. And it's weird. Like, I would rather fast forward to where we're all together and then we experience, like, the big home where we're all not crammed in an apartment and sharing beds. Like this was like, oh, like you get a bed, you get it. Like things that people maybe take for granted, and like we were able to provide that, and like it was like a big moment.
I just remember the feeling. Like,
me too. I thought I was gonna throw up.
No, I was excited. When we bought the house, I know what you're saying more so once we were in the house, but I immediately was thinking of like assigning the papers and everything and like going to the bank and doing all those things. And I kept being like, do we really have it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Fast forward through that because that was stressful.
Like, are you sure they're not gonna be like, just kidding? Like, even just putting our stuff in the U-Haul, like when we get there, is there gonna be keys for us?
Right, right.
Like,
So
what?
like, yeah, like, well, that was the thing. We were so excited when we got here that the doors weren't even open yet.
Yeah.
And we sat on the back patio on the floor and ate lunch together.
I remember the kitchen window had been left unlocked, and so we shoved our daughter through it so she could unlock the door for us. And then the lady showed up.
before we noticed that the window was unlocked.
Yeah.
We sat on the floor and we ate lunch on the patio floor. And this is mine with my family, and like we did this, like it was so crazy. So like that happy little bubble, I wouldn't mind staying in that for a little longer.
Are you crying? Am I crying? No, I'm not crying. You're crying.
But sound off below and let us know what your moment would be. On top of all of that, what do you think about the Air Jordan 4 SE Wet Cement or Paris, whatever it is that you want to call them? Thank you guys so much for everything. Make sure that you support the channel by clicking the link down below in the description box, because when you support our sponsors, you support us. We appreciate you guys. We'll catch you on the next one. So until then, y'all have a good one.